Thank you, our viewers, for joining us and for watching that preceding clip about Northern Uganda. And actually, we're going to proceed on with the discussion about Northern Uganda and specifically what interventions the government of Uganda is doing. And with no waste of time, I just actually want us to go straight into that. No introduction as lengthy to build a background, but let me just go straight into the discussion and introduce my panelists who are very prominent and gallant figures in the public service of Uganda's state. So, right on the set, I have Honorable Uchweni Grace. She will help me to correct any error in terms of pronouncement. The Minister of State for Northern Uganda. Grace, you're welcome. Honorable Grace.
Thank you.
Yes, is the pronunciation of the...
Uchweni. There's no Uchweni. That is another name altogether.
All right. It's pretty peculiar names I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
My to correct the pronunciation as we go on. And on the extreme left, I have Dr. Robert Lim, the Project Director for the Northern Uganda Social Action Fund, NOSAF 3. Dr. Robert, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes. It's a great pleasure indeed to have you here. And so let's get started. I think the most critical question as for you, the panelists here, and in your position, would be to help our viewers to understand what the ministerial portfolio that takes care of Northern Uganda actually does, and the mandate, and exactly what probably you expect, the rest of the things that you expect our viewers to know about. Honorable Grace.
Yes, yes, thank you very much. This ministry was created for a purpose. After a long suffering of the wars, the civil wars, which caused a disparity between North and the South. The government thought it wise to introduce a program to pacify Northern Uganda. And so we have gone a long way now. This is almost coming to 20 years. We would like at this particular moment, and that is the mandate, to consolidate on what we have done before through many programs. Through NOSAF was there before. Through Northern Uganda Reconstruction Program was there before, and along the way PRDP was also introduced, and so the emphasis now is really economic rehabilitation, economic revitalization of Northern Uganda, but also emphasizing the household livelihood. Yeah.
So help us distinguish between the ministerial portfolio, the state ministerial portfolio that you hold of Northern Uganda, and then the one of Karamoja, because the understanding is that Karamoja is part of the northern region, but now you have also the northern region state ministerial post. Is that the way it is? Is there a distinction between Karamoja and Northern Uganda as a ministerial portfolio in the arrangement of the cabinet?
Yes, Northern Uganda is really north, dividing Uganda into two, where Karamoja falls, where Teso region falls, where... So my portfolio is now looking at West Nile region, Acholi region, Lango region, Bukedi region, and Elgon region. Because we have...
In exclusion of Karamoja?
Because Karamoja now has a full minister and Minister of State in charge.
Yes, that's where now the confusion is.
And then we have Teso affairs.
Yes.
No, it is clear. They are all in the north, but they have peculiarities, and that is why they have been granted a region of their own. There is Teso region, Karamoja region, and Bunyoro region. And so in my portfolio, I have those 5 regions I've talked about. Okay,
so what is so distinct and peculiar that actually makes those other partitions of the region different from Karamoja, that actually you needed to have one state minister concentrate on them? Because I need to make sure that I understand the distinction with that. It feels, otherwise the public feels, or me, in my perception, that this is a duplication of ministerial portfolios that is not really as necessary.
It's not duplication, it is rather defining it according to peculiar backgrounds. For example, Karamoja has always been peculiar. Then we have had the Acholi region and Lango region and West Nile region, this is really north. And for many people, for a long time, West Nile was not part of the north. And it has been a big challenge, but I am happy that even donors these days have taken up West Nile as a region in northern Uganda. Otherwise, the concentration for a long time has been Acholi as northern Uganda. So, but those are really some of the conflicting ideas which would like to help people to understand that northern Uganda is the whole of the north, but it has peculiarities. West Nile has its own peculiar issues. Acholi has peculiar issues. It was the epicenter for the Kony War, for example, and the conflict took long. Then Karamoja has its historic background of poverty and drought and all this. So it is all north, but it has peculiar issues that needs attention.
Okay, thanks for that elaborative explanation. I'll come back to you, especially for more details regarding the regional issues. Now, Dr. Robert, there's NUSAF 3, Northern Uganda Social Action Fund, and it has a chronological build-up. There's phase 1, that is NUSAF 1, NUSAF 2, there are other action interventions. So the interest today for this discussion, as even been promoting the show, is about NUSAF 3.
Right.
So help us, give us what that means and its chronological phasing and how we've reached to be here.
Right. Thank you very much. Northern Uganda, as the minister stated, has had a very tumultuous experience during the time of civil strife. And because of that, the government decided to have an affirmative action geared at helping the communities get the support required to measure up to the challenges they're experiencing. And that is why we have had evidence of government strength and government presence through these programs that we are running. First, we had the history of emergency, the time and the era when we had emergencies, humanitarian action, and relief because people were going through war, running out from their villages, coming back and taking refuge. And at that point, you needed to respond through emergency. There was no possibility of having a strong development intervention at that time. And that is why NUSAF 1 was heavily hinged on ensuring people survive and people get through the time of war and insecurity, disruption, displacement. People were in camps at that time. And so survival was the measure that people were looking at that point. Subsequently, we thank God that our country went through the peace that we experience up to now. And that was the silencing of the guns. But silencing of the guns meant we now realize how far Northern Uganda was. And so we started the era of rehabilitation and reconstruction and trying to rebuild and catch up the lost time of 20 years and more. Schools had been destroyed. We had no time to continue building teachers' houses and health facilities. People were not in productive phase. People were out of the line of ensuring they can go beyond today's survival. And so we had to bring back services, especially service delivery at that time, which was very low. The poverty levels were very high. And that is where NUSAF 2 now started through what we call the Peace Recovery and Development Plan as one stream of support to the people of Northern Uganda.
The commonly called PRDP.
PRDP.
Yes.
At the time of NUSAF 2, which ended, which started in 2009 and ended in 2015. We had a lot of concentration on infrastructure, rebuilding what was destroyed and making new interventions in Northern Uganda. People were now going back to their villages, out of the camps, and that was the focus of NUSAF 2, rehabilitation. And I tell you, a great job was done. A lot of interventions, a lot of teachers' houses were constructed, a lot of health facilities were put into form again, and people started to realize better services and better services. But that was not the end of recovery of Northern Uganda. We now had to go to development. And NUSAF 3 is really about establishing a new platform for people to develop, for people to get microeconomies started at household level, at community level, and also as a region. Because at that point, we needed people now to enter and engage in markets. And that's where we are now. Make sure that people can bring something to the market. And from the market, you get the best services, the best rewards that you can get through what you have earned, through what you have worked for. So NUSAF 3 is focusing now on creating competitiveness of the Northern Uganda. And that is why now we are saying it's time to engage a third gear. And so we are now in NUSAF 3. This is really the chronology of the NUSAF interventions in Northern Uganda. We are pleased to see the consistency of government. Government has never run out of the commitment to continue engaging as the people develop. We have a lot of work to do. There is still a poverty gap of about 20 percentage points with Uganda, with the average Ugandan level below poverty. But that means we must do more. That means we must re-engage the communities. And NUSAF 3 is just that facility, one facility of that nature. We have, as the minister said, other interventions, all gearing to build the productivity, the competitiveness of Northern Uganda. Yes.
Okay, just a slight rejoinder. This is somehow supported by World Bank. Is World Bank involved in this project?
Yes.
Yeah. Because just to confirm, I just before I make citation on this, was there is a report they have done, I think they did it in June, about the progress on this project and the amount of money that they've given, and they say that the project is to provide effective household income support and to build a resilience of the poor and vulnerable household in Northern, just exactly what you're saying. So just to proceed on with Honorable Grace, the eligibility that has been stated for NUSAF 3 is that the beneficiary selection will primarily be based on wealth ranking, where one beneficiary will be selected per household. That is a quotation I'm getting from actually that report of the World Bank. Now, Honorable Grace, just help us to understand the intervention, the actual specific interventions in scaling down this poverty-stricken kind of region, based on, of course, the history that we have. What answers specifically are you providing just before we wrap up with this segment?
True, the target is really to bring down the poverty level. And if I can just say what I know about the poverty indices, in West Nile it is 47%, in Acholi and Lamu it is 35%, in Karamoja it is 74%, in Teso it is 24%. So you can see the level of poverty is really higher than the national level of 19.7%. And you can also see the reflection in what is there in Northern Uganda. Northern Uganda has about 8% of all the processing plants in agriculture.
8 or 80?
8,
okay.
8% of the national processing plants in Northern Uganda. But I am happy that we are seeing hope, because in Lira we have about 47 factories, cottages. In Nuoya district we have now commercial farmers coming in, both local and international investors, and they have opened big farms, they have harvesters, they apply fertilizers, they have irrigation, and so we see some level of hard economic activities coming up, which can promise production, employment, and income. Then we have the whole of Northern Uganda contributing 7% to the national GDP.
Yes.
And so these figures are disturbing. So when you say what is government doing, NUSAF is one of the programs. But like the director NUSAF has said, we have done the basic, the mobilization, the community mobilization to production. Now we need to scale up. We are even thinking of being more strategic to mobilize around specific factories.
Mm.
We have tea coming up in northern Uganda. We have coffee. We have cotton, which we can reactivate. We have the sugar factories in northern Uganda. We have cassava factories in northern Uganda, so and the oilseed factories. So we would like to now step this up and specifically mobilize production around those factories, so our factories are surely fed, because that is the challenge now, so that we can create a good productivity level. We shall employ people, the youth, and we shall be sure that income is into the households. This is in addition to the various community groups in the watersheds, which have also been mobilized. But when we combine this, for sure, the production in northern Uganda can go up.
Okay, so the efforts which are combined both with the government and then private institutions, and you want to make sure that you coalesce around that.
Yes.
Okay, it's a good introduction, so let me just make sure that we have a break, then we come back and go into a more detailed discussion about wider issues. Thanks to our viewers for keeping with us this late. It's pretty late, it's 11 p.m. here in Kampala, but wherever you are here in Uganda and across the world, please keep with us, go on social media and join us in this discussion. I'll come back shortly after this break. Thanks to our viewers for keeping with us. I'm Karaga Bodwins, and we're coming to you live from the Kampala International Conference Center. And we're discussing the northern region. If you're out there, especially in the northern region, okay, not excluding anyone in any of our Ugandan regions and of course across the world that are watching us, please keep keen. I want you to give us your feedback. We have already a discussion running on Facebook. Let me actually cite out like 3 of your responses on Facebook. The question is, what is your opinion on government efforts in northern Uganda towards the goal of ending poverty and boosting household incomes? So the responses are here. Let me get Denise Lee. Wow, very interesting name. In addition, for improvement of house income, they should also work harder to solve some land conflicts among communities which are happening seriously. And then Frank Gumisiriza, I wonder where such ideas come from when the available money is for the important issue of changing the age limit. Okay, this is pretty a good opinion, but it's really digressive. But thanks, that's a good opinion in your regard. Then Fred Okoth, they have a good plan, but corruption won't allow them implement it and achieve it. Therefore, should not waste people's time. Okay. And we're going to talk about that corruption aspect. And I have here with me the Minister of State for Northern Uganda and Dr. Robert Limlim, the Director of NUSAF 3. So, Doctor, straight to you about just understanding still the introductory bit of NUSAF 3. So what achievements, specific, like countable achievements, about 3, which are very distinct that have come out of NUSAF 3?
I think the NUSAF 3 was a build-up from NUSAF 2, the success of NUSAF 2.
Yes.
NUSAF 2 ended in February of 2016, and we've just started NUSAF 3, which was really a great transition. And one can count the success relating to what happened in NUSAF 2 and why we are now having NUSAF 3 as another investment to continue on the efforts we have made. We can look at 2 dimensions. One is the qualitative successes and the quantitative. People normally relate to the quantitative, success. Yes. In NUSAF 2, we said we were rehabilitating the basic service infrastructure. For example, the teachers' houses. We constructed over 1,800 teachers' houses in northern Uganda.
In NUSAF 2?
In NUSAF 2.
Okay.
We constructed over 890 health workers' houses. We constructed over 340 health units in the whole of northern region, and we're talking about the 8 regions. And we had investments of 10,519 investment units in the whole of northern region, including the household income support, which was basically in agriculture. And this was to start, as I said, people were bouncing back to their villages, and they needed, you know, these services. They needed to start their lives again. And these efforts were more quantitative in nature, and they have helped improve the school attendance, improve the performance of children in schools, improve the health workers, you know, relations with their patients, and the utilization of those services to the extent has gone up. And we can get those details from the health department. But in qualitative terms, really the program was absolutely spot on. Number one, it was rated, the program of Northern Uganda Social Action Fund was rated one of the most satisfactory, you know, interventions and investments that the government and the World Bank have actually undertaken in the most recent terms. For example, number one, at the end of the project, we had an assessment. The net present value of the project was $19 million. This is to show to you that the project produced and did not lose, you know, in terms of its ability to continue the sustainability of production. The economic rate of return was over 29%, which means the efficiencies of the project were much higher.
Where are you getting these statistics from? Where are they embedded?
We did our assessment, the completion report, which was independently done by a certain team of the World Bank and outside Uganda. And they come and rate all of us, the bank, the government, which is the borrower, and the program, the results on the ground. And this really encouraged all of us that we are spot on in terms of the efficiency, the viabilities of this program. So the successes were reverberating, and that's why all of us agreed to learn lessons from NUSAF 2, which we built now in the construction of NUSAF 3. There were only 3 lessons I wanted to share. The first was that through the interventions of NUSAF, we discovered that as we go to the production phase, we needed to focus on communities rather than general rehabilitation. Focus on certain communities, show impact, and that impact will appear rather than just having to spread so thin everywhere. The second lesson was that as we implement the programs, we must ensure that we bring people to the market. The market forces must interact with our people, demand and supply. So our people can bring something to the market, and the market can give them services, financial rewards, and then from there they can have a sustainable economic trajectory at household level. The third lesson we learned was that as we involve ourselves in jump-starting the microeconomy of our households, inputs are necessary, but they are not sufficient to turn the economy of the people alone. We needed to build the capacity of our people to turn inputs into outputs, outputs into outcomes, and outcomes into impact. This capacity building was not there in NUSAF 2, and now we have injected it in NUSAF 3, particularly through the private sector investments. And we are now partnering with very strong private sector institutions and private sector companies that are already doing work at the community level. For example, Agromax, which is going to do a lot in capacity of irrigation, horticulture, for markets, not just local markets, regional markets, and to the extent possible, even exports. We are going to have a capacity building partner through the Enterprise Uganda. Enterprise Uganda has a maximum skill and potential to inject entrepreneurship into our people. We don't need to continue doing agriculture for purposes of just agriculture. It must be for subsistence and then to the market. This is a change in paradigm, and therefore we need to build our people's capacity. This is an achievement. People love it, and they know that they're going to live a different life here, and I think we are excited, those of us who are in NUSAF 3, excited to continue to support our people. Let's not be desperate and be cynical anymore. We can do things, and we just need to configure the right arrangements, our people will become better.
Yeah, and Dr. Robert, you know, definitely because you're at the forefront of the project, and definitely World Bank does research, and it's in joint efforts with the government, and at times it's over glamorized. So one of the researches that was done, there's a gentleman called Goloba Mutebi. He's a research fellow at MISA, Makerere Institute of Research. He did this actually just after, I think, the NUSAF one, and he made these citations. The paper was called Governing Chronic Poverty Under Inclusive Liberalism, the case of Northern Uganda Social Action Fund. And he says the idea was to empower vulnerable people, but it has not lived up to what it was supposed to do. Beneficiaries did not manage the funding well, projects were not well researched, people went into rearing chickens, goats and pigs without knowing how to look after them, okay? There was a lot of conflict leading to failure. In some cases, people were walking off with animals, and in other group leaders. So you're talking about quality, but actually there's a lot of confusion on the ground when you're doing the implementation, and you look at the statistics, you go extract them, but they don't actually reflect the reality on the ground. I just need you to clear up this. I have much more daunting issues that were cited out in this research, but that's just one of them. The quality of your project implementation and conceptualization most of the time is not as effective and relevant to actually the ground, in as much as you're saying it is.
I think I want to clear it right away. That research was after NUSAF 1.
Oh, exactly. So you know about
which
it.
I told you was implemented at the time of conflict. There was still war. People were in displaced camps. People were living hand to mouth. People were running from guns and insecurity. There was no possibility of doing anything of quality. It is a miracle that our people made through, and we thank God they did. But after that, there was a calm, there was a peace that returned in Northern Uganda. And that is when NUSAF 2 started. And that's where the right conceptualization of rehabilitation and reconstruction phase had to kick in. And so if you did the same research, and we did, we contracted independent evaluators, beneficiary assessment, the community scorecards were all done by independent researchers of the like of Glover, but of course different from him. And outstanding results came out. Number one, the communities believed in the programs. They knew they were spot on. It started their life. 60% of the beneficiaries of NUSAF reported that they benefited and they were more profitable investments. Over 40% were reporting that they invested the project inputs, they produced profits, and the profits were useful for their household expenditure. Over 39% were talking about the results of their investments being useful for healthcare and for educating their children. This was on NUSAF 2. And we built on this, and we capitalized on this and ensured the NUSAF 3 we are now implementing is taking us to another level. What's the level? We are not going to finance interventions that are not market driven. The minister has just told you that we are beginning by understanding the framework of manufacturing and processing and commercial activity in Northern Uganda. What does the market want? What are the signals? The market wants cassava. That is what we should be financing. There are factories that are processing cassava, 60,000 tons per day per factory, and that requires outgrowers. Tiak Sugar Works has just started. It is not something which has been there in the past. It is now there. We need outgrowers for sugarcane. Our oil seed factories need a lot of outgrowers for oil seed. That's what we are going to finance. And that is why our designs now are apt, they are sharper, they are robust, and they will take our people to higher level of productivity.
Okay, fantastic. Now, good expose, Doctor. Yes, now, Honorable Minister, the issue about refugees, because you have an influx of people coming and they are overwhelming the communities there. UNICEF 2017 Uganda Situation Report on Refugees, Disease Outbreaks and Natural Hazards indicates that Uganda hosts 1,139,374 refugees. And asylum seekers of these, there are about 816,000 41 from South Sudan, and mentions those who are coming from DRC and those from Burundi. And more than half of these refugee populations are children, unfortunately. So and recently we had a summit about refugee solidarity, international UN refugee solidarity summit in Uganda. So we want to understand how you are making this work for the communities, local communities, yet there seems to be a heavy concentration on refugees and a burden that is actually getting to be imputed on these communities. How are we balancing out this whole development?
Okay. Let me start from where the doctor has stopped and really appeal to the people to take development programs very seriously. The amount of money being injected in the communities under NOSAF is a big amount of money, over 300 billion shillings in Northern Uganda. And so we should not experience the type of analysis, the type of report you have just given, because we have moved from where we started like 10 years ago. We are now into the 13th or so years. We should
no, Mom, this is a UNICEF 2017 Uganda situation report on refugees.
I was just referring to that
global report.
That global report.
Yes. No, it's I need to refer to something because
I want to build it from there.
Yes. Okay.
And I'm saying that there is an opportunity in this NOSAF fund.
Yes.
And there is also an opportunity in hosting the refugees, because we have just finished the Solidarity Summit, which raised over $400 million to support the refugees, but not only the refugees, but also host communities. And I remember the president coming very clear on a very big project in West Nile, the road from Koboko through Yumbe, through Moyo, which has dilapidated because of the activities of refugees. There are big trucks which have to carry refugees, which have to carry food, which have to carry water. There is deforestation as a result of clearing of bush for settlement, for construction, for wood fuel. There is a burden on the food security in West Nile. And so this 430 million or so is really a blessing. And the appeal now I will want to make as government and local government is that we have to plan this money well, so that it really benefits the people in education, construction of schools that have expanded, others are under trees, under tents, the construction of health units, and also the supplies of the medicines. Because
but let me just, about the issue of the refugees, because we have a slight time on that. Are people really comfortable, just as it is reflected by the government and championed by the president, that people in Northern Uganda are so comfortable with the refugee influx that they are very cordial and receptive, and they don't feel any burden for the refugees being there and taking a toll on their resources? Is that the right situation in Northern Uganda?
I have just told you the burden in education, in health sector, in the environment. The burden is there, but it is manageable. And that is why they'll refer to you as hospitable compared to another one who would not receive, fearing that burden. So to that extent, we are comfortable. But would like to have more involvement of the local people, so that the local person appreciates, I have offered land and this is the benefit I'm getting, education, health services, that the local person doesn't go to the hospital and find there is no medication, compared to a few years ago where the budget the government put was fairly adequate. But now with the coming of the refugees, you need actually to double that resource envelope to be able to supply adequate medicine in the hospitals. You need maybe to recruit 2 or 3 more teachers to be able to manage the number that has increased in a class. So we need adequate planning and a fair planning that doesn't create disparity between the refugees coming in and the local person. And we need to plan in such a way that we are not just doing handouts, or we are not just giving deliveries or relief, because I think the situation is going to be a long one. The refugees are here to stay for quite some time, and that is where I'll also appeal to our neighbors and to the world that we should stop the source of the conflict, which is making people run to us. We are hospitable, fine, but why must our neighbors keep fighting all the time when they could actually have peace and when they could actually host their own citizens? So that is another question at another level. But for now, I think what the government is doing, the 430 million is good enough. Government had also earlier on got some loan from World Bank of $50 million to support Adjumani, Arua, Kiriandongo, and Isingiro, to also ensure that the challenges that is brought about by this increased influx is minimized. Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, pretty comforting, the situation you're trying to describe. Let me go for a break, then we come back, we talk about Karamoja, the drought aspect, then the corruption bit, and youth unemployment. And then we shall get citation of some of the responses from our viewers. Right. Thanks our viewers for keeping with us. Let me just go for a short break and we'll come back, then deal with. I want to entertain about 3 phone calls. Due, of course, to the constraint of our time here. So I'll just get ready. When we get back into the studio, I need you to call. I'll get 3 calls and then get some citations from some of your responses on social media. Thank you. Thanks our viewers for keeping with us. I'm Karagawa Bodwins, and indeed we are discussing a very wide concerning issue to our public's development, and that is the Northern Uganda region development. And the discussion is online and it's here in studio, and let me just set out some of the responses that we've got on Facebook in continuation of the question that I stated earlier. I remember was Alex says, people in Northern Uganda can change their standards in long run, because there is no way you can invest there when residents are not ready to give out their land. And then Collins here says that these projects actually just benefit government officials. So those are some of the responses that you can get. And right here now, I'm going to open the phone lines. I want to just pick 3 call-ins, and then we address these questions to the Minister of State for Northern Uganda and the Director of NUSAF 3, that is Dr. Robert Limlim. Now, back to the discussion, and let me get to you, Dr. Robert Limlim. The issue which has been recently grappled with by Karamoja, actually Northern region, is the drought. And, you know, the people have been devastated to the point that people died because of that drought. What has that kind of project investment in that region actually helped in this regard?
Thank you. Drought is a well-known phenomenon in the region of Karamoja, and it is now expanding even to other parts of Uganda and also the region, the Horn of Africa in general, because of climate change. And the realities are that we shall have to deal with this for the long haul. And then we need, as intellectuals living in this region, to rethink our existence in the wake of the global warming and climate change in general. In Karamoja, of course, the seasons have changed. The drought is becoming more and more prominent and frequent than it was there before. But I must also say that the government interventions and also the response of our people have been changing and have helped us to actually cope with the challenge of drought in many cases. The drought challenges us to think about how do we manage the productivity of our land in a better way. The drought challenges us to think about how best to take care of livestock in the modern and contemporary Karamoja. The drought that we see now challenges us to ask deeper questions on productivity and income and livelihoods of our people than we have ever done before. So we don't have the luxury of remaining in what we need, what we used to do, what our grandfathers used to do. This is actually asking us contemporary responses, modern and probably well-designed and technologically backed responses than we have ever had before.
So just a second on that, because we need to make sure that we also give attention to the response, to the viewers.
Yes.
I can hear the buzz, which I think people are going to call, are calling in. They're interested in getting to you to give them more concrete answers. Yes, viewer, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, your name and where you're calling from, sir?
Fred from Boyogere, but I'm not live.
You're not what? Hello? You are live, please. I'm talking to you. This is Karagawa Baldwins hosting this show.
Yeah, this is Fred from Boyogere.
Yes, please go on. What is your question or comment?
Yes,
okay.
Now,
yes, please be as fast as you can and precise, because we are bad with time.
I just want to ask the Honorable Minister to help me understand just 3 issues.
Yes.
Issue 1.
Yes.
How much has the program helped our people in Northern Uganda?
Okay.
Especially the psychosocial aspect.
All right.
The psychosocial aspect.
Okay.
As they came back and
dealing with trauma and issues of disease. Yes. Okay. Second.
2. LUSAF is a project. It is supposed to be a cutting edge in terms of service delivery. What is on the ground is that it is so micro. It is at village level, and even if it's at village level, it's handling small items. How do you expect to cascade to all the communities in the area?
Okay, can I just ask you one question in follow-up of that question you're asking? When were you last in that region?
That's where I come from.
Okay, good. All right, proceed on. Yes.
Then we expect that being a project, it means that Northern Uganda should be receiving the normal funding like other areas, but the NUSAF should be over and above the national budget. Is this what is happening in these areas? Because from what I see, funding in some areas has been down because they say the NUSAF project will be used to, to deliver services in those areas.
Okay, thank you so much. I believe the questions are pretty clear, and the minister has gotten them. I need them to respond to them, and you can see that it's pretty late here in Kampala. So let me get another call. And hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Yes, where are you calling from and what's your name?
Yeah.
Your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Ochero Ogola.
Yes, please.
I'm calling from Kampala.
Very good. Okay, your question or comment?
Yeah, my comment, but I'm not on air. Am I on air?
Yes, please. I am Baldwins. I'm live with you. You are talking on national television. Please go on.
Of NTV, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah, my comment goes to Dr. Lim Lim.
Yes, sir.
Are there some design strategies which is not being implemented in NUSAF 3 that is making them not achieve the development perspectives and objectives in Northern Uganda?
But how did you come to that premise that they have not achieved some objectives? Are there any specific studies you're referring to? Is there something that you expected them to do that you don't find them having done? Okay, unfortunately he has dropped off. Okay, our last caller, I hope Dr. Nim, anything that you feel has not been achieved that you owe. Our last caller, please. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, gentlemen. Good evening. Your name and where you're calling from, sir?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you live and clear. This is Karaga Baldwin's NTV. Please go on. Your name and where you're calling from?
No, thank you very much.
Your name?
Thank you for the beautiful program. My name is Paul Omara.
Yes, sir.
And I'm an investor in Lira.
All right.
The private sector, and working with the farming communities.
Okay.
I like the way the minister and the director has adopted the program for NUSAF 3.
Okay.
Because they have now accepted that dealing with the private sector and government will actually yield the benefits for our communities.
All right.
And I've noted one thing. The minister said there are about 48 milling plants in Lira for the oilseed sector, which is correct. But unfortunately, all these oil mills are operating at 30% capacity. So there's excess capacity because of lack of grain. There are no sufficient sunflower to be produced by the farmers. And yet, I hear about 300 billion shillings that ordinarily we should actually now be saying, okay, the private sector has spent huge investments in terms of machinery, building infrastructures, and therefore the government then should come in from the other angle to provide seeds to the farmers so that we can produce full capacity. And then stop importing cooking oil. At the moment, Uganda is importing 65% of our cooking oil from outside the country. And yet we can be self-sufficient.
Okay.
So if we can actually...
okay, gentlemen, unfortunately, I have to cut you short. You have a brilliant submission on this particular matter, and I think very appreciated by the minister and the director. So let me just get back into to the panel to make sure that we respond to this. Our callers, please just hold, because with a constraint in time, I need to make sure that these are responded to and we wrap up. So, Doctor, just on the responses to those questions, because you were trying to wrap up on something. Okay. And the last caller is really appreciative, but saying they're not getting the sufficient support that they would wish to have to be competitive. Then the issue of are there certain things you're not doing because you don't have sufficient funds? Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
thank
briefly,
you.
so that I get to the
Thank you, and we want to thank the caller.
Yes.
This is the kind of feedback which will help us actually become more robust and more accurately linked with the off-takers of whatever comes out of the investments that the government is offering to the communities. As I told you earlier, that the NUSAF 3 is premised on the investment that are market-driven. We get the signal from the market, like our friend has just said from Lira. There is need for oil seed. We need to scale up more farmers producing oil seed and availing to this market so that these factories can stop working at 30% and move progressively from 30% to 50 to 80 until we are able to sufficiently provide for all the needs, not only for this, but even for the future factories. So I want to assure the caller that starting this month of July, we are actually busy going to generate new funding in investment units, including oil seed. And there will be more and more, obviously more and more people and farmers interested in producing, and we shall fund them. Not just the seeds. We'll open land, we'll support the opening of land, we'll support, of course, the seed to be planted, we'll provide also technical support, we will have training of our farmers, and we shall work with the agricultural experts to make sure that the quality of the seed that comes to the market is appropriate. And we shall also work with the private sector, from the beginning, so that even our colleagues who have factories can come to the communities and see how this is done. We have done it in Noya with the cassava producing crushing factory. They come to the market, to the farmers, they see how they are doing, and they even help us to support the farmers more with technical support. We are working with the Tiak Sugar for the same, and we are going to continue to do this. So this is the environment, this is the assurance I will give our colleague. On what we are not doing well, I must say there's a big challenge. There's a big challenge on attitudinal change. Whatever we do, unless our people get geared up and change their attitudes to production and move from just a quarter an acre and being satisfied with just the little that they have done to strive to satisfy the market, for example, on oil seed, on cassava, on other required inputs, production, attitudes to work. People need to change their work culture. People sometimes begin drinking at 10 o'clock or even earlier when they could be spending more time in the gardens producing and with livestock producing. Attitudes to saving. People have no money to actually invest. And that is why in NUSAF we are inputting resources to change these three attitudes so that our people can be lifted to the level of preparedness for the challenge of progress, for the challenge of development, which is, we are not doing well now. But I think in our new investments, we are going to tackle this. And we have the assurance that both the physical money injection, the technical input, the infrastructure inputs, plus the psychosocial attitudinal change will drive the transformation of our people. And the markets will take the rest on.
All right, brilliantly submitted. And now, Honorable Minister, please take it away. Issues of actually the statistics issued out about performance are not usually representative in the perception of the public, representative of what actually is on the ground. Then there was the aspect of psychosocial support of people who are suffering from the trauma. Is that part of the arrangement of NUSAF? So you can respond to our viewers and then we take it on from there.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the aspect of social, psychosocial has been handled by government deliberately allowing NGOs and other actors to come in. But I should say that the program of NUSAF also has an inbuilt aspect in solving the psychosocial aspect, because the needs of the communities are the ones which are generated to be supported. NUSAF doesn't fund ideas from elsewhere. It works with the communities. It is the communities which says we need a school, and the school was constructed. We need a well, and the well was constructed. We need a health center, and it was constructed. That is the history. And now we are saying that, okay, let's guide you. We have done a lot of construction. Now we need income. We need livelihood. And that is how the current NUSAF has been designed to ensure that the communities get income. This is not a big capital project. This is a program of rehabilitation, and it is a gradual process to get the people from where they are up to where we expect them to be. So the psychosocial aspect, in a way, has been adequately addressed, but also in addition, there have been specific programs in Northern Uganda which have trained communities, which has counseled victims of the war, which has supported victims of the war, and we cannot underrate that.
Now on the issue of implementation, actually, let me just give you a certain, also an addition of information, because there's an element of corruption. First of all, there's study pictures that are created, of course, by researchers, and people do not agree with that, at times, with what the situation is on the ground. And then there's the corruption aspect. And on the 1st of June 2017, there was a story which was not reported after the IGG had done her own interventions in this particular program, and it states that that is on the 1st of June 2017, this very year. 4 officials implementing the 3rd Northern Uganda Social Action Fund in Albetong district have allegedly received...
Alebtong.
Yes, Alebtong. They were allegedly received, had been allegedly implicated to have received kickbacks amounting to about 16 million shillings from project implementers. So meaning that they issue out projects to people who they are colluding with to get benefits out of that. And this is just a snippet of what goes on around. And of course, some things cannot be even found out. So there's corruption. There's
corruption, we can't deny it. There's corruption tendencies which we have to work against immediately. This case you are talking about and being reported is well after we had known everything. When that issue came up, we were informed, and the IGG rightly reports because the IGG is an inbuilt actor of NUSAF. It is the one which trains community on accountability. It is the one which strengthens the governance system of the communities. And so when we dictated, we quickly worked within our circles, and the IGG was on the ground. And as I talk now, those 4 persons have been dismissed. We have recruited another one, and this should send a message to other people as well, other officers, other community actors. And I want to say that this corruption thing, they should not look at government officials or politicians like pointing fingers. I think all of us should have a role to play in fighting corruption. Like I would like to appreciate the RDC here of Aleptong when he sensed that these 4 facilitators were extorting money from communities who willingly gave because they say, this is a God-given program that has come to us. We are going to benefit. Let's give money for photocopying. Let's give money for transport, which these people are given from the program. So we find this this is a role where everybody should act. The minister is far away, but the community person should question, say, wait a minute, isn't this person facilitated? Isn't this person supposed to do ABCD and not to do the EFG? So it's really a concerted effort, and the IGG office has helped a lot in helping the community understand corruption, because many of them may think it is an office thing, but it can also be perpetuated by the communities. So we cannot rule out corruption, but we have to fight the corruption tendencies.
Yeah.
And I wanted to respond to one of these people who have asked about funding. Is the NUSAF a normal funding, or is it it's an affirmative action? It is in addition to what the districts get. And the districts are given funds in the financial year. They have budgeted for it, they have planned for it, and it is disbursed through the Ministry of Finance. Now, the NUSAF fund is disbursed through the Office of the Prime Minister. So it is an addition, and I think we should get it clear. And that is why I was saying that we should not miss this opportunity. This funding is there for Northern Uganda. Whatever project it is meant to do, let's do it religiously and get the benefit and move a step ahead. We cannot remain at the community level with small projects all the time. We should go to the factory levels, and we should even aim higher, maybe to processing and exporting.
Okay, good, Honorable. So now we're going to, I want us to wrap it up in this way. And this is a very heart-wrenching issue of mine. It's a bit prejudicial or personal. Dr. Robert, as you're responding and making your last remarks, if you're saying this is so successful, what is the problem with the Karamoja kids who are on our streets? The young, the vibrant, you can see young ladies who are energetic, who are capable. They are on our streets roaming. You're driving in your car, you get the most irritable treatment by them all the time they come. So if you're saying they're very, you know, people are happy in Northern Uganda and NUSAF 3 is operating, why? One of the implications we are having as a spillover for perhaps a bad situation in the north. Why do we have these people on the streets really just disturbing people on the streets and making themselves a nuisance and making people so uncomfortable on the streets? If you're saying they're comfortable up there, what is bringing them on the streets here? Well, as you're wrapping up, you answer that, and you help me wrap up, and then
thank you.
Yes.
First, nobody says people are comfortable. We are making progress to tackle the question of deprivation, to tackle the question of inequality that has been compelled on us, imposed on us by the civil strife and the war that happened, and conflict, cattle rustling, and all manner of, anarchy that had come in the northern Uganda, which has been sorted out. 2, development is not a straight line. It will take a time, it will take turns, and it has to be progressive. 3, the consequences of all these upheavals that happen in northern Uganda will continue in different forms, including street children, including the unemployment, including the lack of productivity, which is still low, and so on. But we have to tackle them, and I must assure you that the government, through the affirmative action programs, is making strong headway to ensure that these are minimized, the consequences, the outcomes, negative outcomes are minimized. We have programs that affect households so that they don't push the children out to the street, because children don't respond out of nothing. There are push factors, and these include the low productivity at household level, the food insecurity, the poverty levels that the minister just talked about. 74%. This is out of this world, while Uganda is at 19%. We must inject more work there before we see results here. By the time we bring the poverty in Karamoja to 30%, my belief is that the consequences will not be what you are seeing now on the street. There will be much more production. We have only 1 million people in Karamoja. We can tackle this, but let us be forthright, let us be persistent and consistent in tackling these issues. Now, I can close this submission today by saying Northern Uganda has a long way to go, but we are poised to success. We are poised to much more development and microeconomic stability and competitiveness if we continue on the path of industrialization, increased production, and also participation of our households in the marketplace, so that the market can give them the services, money, and all that is required to make their households better, a quality of life. I believe that Northern Uganda, by trends, is making by far great progress, including malnutrition. For example, Karamoja has had the biggest reduction of stunting, which has never been seen in the region in 5 years' time. This, if you read in our DHS report, the 2016 report, it's still high, but the reduction is stunning, which means what we are doing is making results, but we need to do more of this. People are now going back to the gardens. People are producing. In Karamoja, you see right now people are in the garden, something they have never been doing in this extent. Why? Because what we are doing is right. They are now introducing various, crops beyond sorghum and maize. There's cassava now in Karamoja. In the northern, in Kabong, there is even Irish potatoes in Karamoja. We've got beans and people going on to produce rice and exporting rice to Mbale from Namalu. We are now having a school feeding program, which is homegrown in the prison land in Namalu, providing our own people cereals. What we are doing is right. Let's do more. Let's scale up. That is going to help the whole of Northern Uganda. We have examples of success. Let's be relentless and let's be committed. And let us avoid corruption, as the minister said. All of us, not just government, everybody comes in to do the work and do your turn. But I'm so happy that we have the chance to use this forum to explain this, and I hope we shall do more in the subsequent weeks. Thank you.
I'll be delighted indeed to continue the discussion. Yes, Honorable Grace. So I need you to wrap up. What's the future of Northern Uganda? Is the picture going to be better? Is the government going to make greater strides, or making sure that we catch up? The Northern Uganda region catches up with the rest of the lower south of the nation to ensure that we are part involved.
Thank you very much. I'm sure the people will agree with me that the focus of the strategic direction and the focus of government for Northern Uganda is very clear and is very positive, because we are saying let's address the issue of the 68% poor households. And about 890,000 come from Northern Uganda. And with this NUSAF program, they are targeted.
Yes.
And government is also emphasizing on commercial agriculture. I just gave a small example of Nwoya district. And we can make it because we have the land, very fertile land, very virgin land. We only need to change our perception of land utilization. We have to plan well our land use. We should not hide under customary ownership of land, traditional usage of land, when we can actually make our land become of economic value. And I want to thank one of the people who responded that we should really manage land conflict. It's very true. It's taking a lot of time of leaders of Northern Uganda to be in meetings of resolving land conflict. And yet they cannot even manage it. It is escalating. I would like to appeal to Northern Uganda. Let's calm down. Let's sit down and say we use our land economically. We plan, we say this is the land for industrial parks like the government is advocating. This is the land for ranches. This is the land for agriculture. This is the land for... We can plan and we can all together come as a community and work on it. I want to appeal to people of Northern Uganda that we have yet another opportunity. We have this fund running for 4 more years, which is not going to be disturbed. It is kept in a dollar account, and so we don't fear the fluctuations in currencies and so on. This is sure deal. We only have to be strategic. And like somebody worried that it is addressing small projects. No, we have to do what is strategic. For example, we can also do irrigation. We have dams which are only being used for feeding animals, for watering animals. We should now change our attitude and get skills in appropriate technologies and even use of these dams for irrigation. We can make it. We can make our products marketable. We can access external markets in Sudan, in Congo. We can even export to Europe, but we have to do quality processing and we can bring the plants there.
Okay.
So I think we have all the positive hope. The government is supporting. We only have to support the program as well.
Right. And Honorable Grace, Minister of State for Northern Uganda, Dr. Robert Limlim, Project Director for the Northern Uganda Social Action Fund. But personally, I need to express my gratitude and respect. I believe you're doing a great job, and perhaps the public needs to make a balanced sort of evaluation. There are things which are not being done right, but the region is not as easy. So I'm being a bit personal and sentimental, but I think you're doing a great job, and we're delighted that you're communicating, and you need to communicate much more about what government is doing, and so that you can be probed by the public and journalists like us, and you make your case clear, and then you go improve the services. Otherwise, thank you indeed for being here. I hope I will host you another time, and God bless. And thanks our viewers for keeping us as your #1 station. We are here to inform, educate, and empower you. And indeed, you have ensured that we are the leading station here in Uganda. And thanks for watching us everywhere. Thanks to my team in the control room, my producer, of course, our marketing team, and my graphics team. And I just want to beckon you, if you're out there as a corporate company or a government agency or any institution that wants to pass on a message structured comprehensively to the public, please come talk to our MD or come talk to our sales team, and we'll be able to give you a comprehensive hour for us to talk business as regards to your interest. God bless. Keep tuned on to NTV. I'll be back here next week. Indeed, keep logged on.
Thank you.